If your labor was medically induced at term and your baby was doing fine at the start, but then ended up with an HIE or CP diagnosis, you need to understand what may have happened. Because in many cases, when labor is induced at term, the baby begins the labor healthy. The heart rate is normal, oxygen levels are normal, there are no signs of distress, but as labor progresses, things begin to change. Maybe the labor drags on, maybe the baby is having trouble moving down the birth canal, maybe medications are increased to speed things up, and then suddenly, now we're at an emergency. And now you are left asking, was my baby's HIE brain injury or subsequent CP diagnosis, was this preventable? A term medical induction means that doctors started labor even though your baby was at full term. This was not an elective induction. It was done because it was considered necessary. And when a baby is full term and in the right position, labor should progress safely. But if something does go wrong during the process, the baby can suffer serious harm in certain situations. Prolonged labor happens when labor lasts for too long. The longer the labor goes on, the harder that it is on both you and the baby. And if labor is lasting for hours beyond what is safe, then that can become dangerous for you and your baby. The failure to descend is when the baby does not move down the birth canal as expected. And sometimes the baby is in a bad position. Sometimes contractions are not strong enough. And sometimes, despite the signs that the baby is struggling, doctors will fail or they will wait too long to act. These conditions can all lead to a lack of oxygen for your baby. And when a baby does not get enough oxygen, then the brain is going to be at risk for an injury. Doctors use medications like Pitocin to make labor progress, but if contractions become too strong or too frequent, that can often cut the baby's oxygen off. And if labor is lasting for too long, the placenta can start to fail, reducing the oxygen supply to your baby. If a baby is stuck and struggling to descend, oxygen deprivation can last for minutes or even in prolonged situations up to hours. And that is how permanent brain damage to the baby can happen. HIE occurs when the baby's brain does not get enough oxygen. Cerebral palsy or CP can follow when the injury affects motor functions. These injuries are life-changing and they do not always just happen. When looking into cases like this, we go straight to the fetal monitoring records. Was your baby doing fine at the start of labor? Did the heart rate change later on, showing signs of distress? Did labor last longer than it should have? Were there delays in responding to your baby's failure to descend? Was Pitocin or other induction drugs increased even though your baby was showing signs of distress? These are the details that matter in these investigations, because when a baby starts labor healthy at term and then suffers a brain injury, we're going to ask the questions, why did this happen? Hospitals and their doctors, they will have defenses for these cases. They might say that your baby's injury was unavoidable. They might tell you that fetal monitoring never showed any major problems. They may argue that the Pitocin that was used was done safely. They may say that a C-section was done at the right time. But what if this is not the full story? What if the baby was showing warning signs, but they were dismissed? What if there were delays in making decisions that could have prevented your baby's injury? Was your baby's heart rate normal when labor first started? Did the labor last much longer than you expect? Were you given medications that sped things up? Did your baby struggle to move down the birth canal? Did doctors seem to be unsure as to what should they do next? Looking back, do you feel like something else could have been done differently throughout this entire process? If you're asking these types of questions, it's because something just does not feel right. And when it comes to HIE brain injuries and CP, the decisions made during labor, they actually matter. If your baby was diagnosed with HIE or subsequent CP diagnosis and you had a term medical induction, a prolonged labor, or a failure to descend, you deserve answers. These injuries can last a lifetime, and if something could have been done differently, you have the right to know that. Again, I'm Marcus Boston, and if you have any other questions about your baby's HIE brain injury at birth or subsequent CP diagnosis from a medical legal standpoint, don't hesitate to reach out and contact me. You can find out more information about me in my profile. If you're on certain apps, you can just send me a DM and we can chat that way, or you can just wait and watch the picture that follows this video. All right, that's going to be it for this morning's quick educational video, and I'm going to get back on my walk to finish up my workout for the rest of the morning. Guys, take care and have a great day.